SNL just dropped actual photos, not rumours, finally linking Meghan Markle to her old yacht days with Prince Andrew. And the moment Saturday Night Live slipped that into Weekend Update, everyone in the room felt the shift. They knew exactly what they were doing. Because when Colin Jost jokes about images the public hasn't seen yet, that isn't comedy. That's a signal. The message was obvious. These aren't the old fake photos. These aren't mislabeled ones. These are new images allegedly circulating privately that tie Meghan directly to Prince Andrew's yacht scene from before Harry, before the titles, before the rebrand. And insiders say the fallout was instant. Behind the gates in Montecito, Meghan reportedly snapped, yelling, throwing things, panicking while lawyers and PR rushed to contain whatever SNL just lit on fire. Because once late-night TV hints that visuals exist, it's no longer rumour. It's countdown mode. Now. Here's the real point. Meghan Markle didn't just appear out of thin air. Before the palace, before the titles, before the tearful documentaries and victim branding, she was a working actress navigating elite spaces she technically had no normal access to. And that isn't shade, that's logistics. Because struggling cable TV actresses don't typically get invited to billionaire vacation spots, spend time on exclusive yachts, appear at members-only clubs tied to global influence networks, unless someone is opening those doors. And doors like that don't swing open by accident. That's where the Yacht Girl stories come in. Not as insults, not as slurs, but as industry shorthand for women placed inside elite leisure environments, where access is currency and proximity is the entire transaction. Nobody's claiming every yacht is a scandal, but acting like yachts are innocent floating brunch boats for career networking. Come on. And when Meghan's name keeps circling that same world repeatedly, people stop asking if she was there. They start asking how early she got there. This story would have stayed in gossip mode if it ended with yachts. It stops being gossip the second Prince Andrew enters. Because Andrew isn't mildly problematic, he's radioactive. Multiple sources, including seasoned royal researchers, have claimed that Meghan Markle knew Prince Andrew long before she knew Prince Harry. Not after, not through marriage, before. Through overlapping elite circles, through private gatherings, through the same ecosystem Andrew has been trying to distance himself from for years. And this is where it matters. If Meghan knew Andrew before Harry, then the fairy tale cracks. Then the outsider narrative collapses. Then it wasn't fate, it was strategy. And that's exactly why this angle stayed buried for so long. Because once Prince Andrew becomes part of your origin story, people start re-evaluating the entire rise. The timing, the introductions, the circles, the access. That's not defamation, that's consequence. And now that SNL has cracked the door open, this topic isn't optional anymore. It's happening. Whether Meghan's camp likes it or not, let's drop the fairy tale right here. These weren't cute boat trips. These weren't influencer vacations. These weren't girly sunsets with cocktails. Elite yacht culture is a closed ecosystem, and anyone pretending otherwise is kidding themselves. Yacht invitations are controlled. Guest lists are curated. Men with money arrive knowing exactly why they're there. Women arrive knowing exactly what's expected, even if no one says it out loud. That's why events like Yacht Weeks aren't marketed like beach holidays. They're whispered, they're passed along quietly, and they're structured so nothing follows you home. So when Meghan Markle's name keeps getting linked to that world, people aren't being mean by asking questions. They're being practical. Because you don't just stumble into that environment, you're invited. You're vetted. And someone with influence signs off on your presence. That's not gossip. That's how access functions. Now let's talk about the place where all of these worlds quietly intersect. Soho House, not a restaurant, not a hotel, not a cute networking spot. Soho House is a gatekeeping machine. No cameras, no press, no accountability. It exists for one purpose: to connect ambitious people with powerful ones behind sealed doors. And the person sitting at the centre of Meghan Markle's early orbit inside Soho House was Marcus Anderson. Now this may not be confirmed, But there are persistent whispers that Marcus Anderson's name, allegedly, may not even be Marcus Anderson. How true that is, no one can verify. But back to the point. Marcus Anderson wasn't a casual friend. He wasn't a +1. He was the global membership director. The literal human key to who gets access and who doesn't. And yes, this is the same Marcus Anderson who introduced Meghan Markle to Prince Harry, showed up constantly in her inner circle, stood front and centre at her wedding, then quietly vanished from public view. People don't vanish when everything is clean. They vanish when attention becomes risky. Because once people start asking how introductions happened and why, the entire networking illusion breaks. This is where things stop being hypothetical. Author and researcher Kirby Summers has claimed for years that photos exist. Images showing Meghan Markle on a yacht in Phuket with Prince Andrew dating to the early 2000s. And before anyone shouts fake, let's make one thing clear. Summers is not referring to the mislabeled pictures online that fact-checkers already debunked. She's talking about different images. Ones she claims mainstream outlets already have, but refuse to publish. Now pause for a moment, because here's the question nobody wants to touch. If the photos don't exist, why does everyone act like they do? Media doesn't sit on nothing. Editors don't bury irrelevance. Legal departments don't circle around fiction. Silence at this level only happens when publishing something would harm multiple powerful interests at once. And that's why this story never actually dies. It just goes on pause. Until now. Because once comedians, commentators and cultural gatekeepers start hinting at things the media won't show, the pressure shifts. And suddenly Meghan Markle isn't fighting rumours anymore. She's fighting the clock. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because if this story were fake, wildly wrong or totally manufactured, the response would be easy. You deny it. You clarify it. You shut it down with clean facts. But that's not what happened. Instead, we saw silence, recalibration, distance, and legal manoeuvring. Not explanation, containment. No clear denial of knowing Prince Andrew early. No timeline about elite access. No answer for how a mid-tier actress was circulating in spaces normally reserved for billionaires and royalty. Just nothing. And in media, silence is never neutral. Silence is a strategy. It's the same playbook used when answering a question would make the situation worse than ignoring it altogether. And the longer the silence sits, the louder the question becomes. Now let's talk about the person this storyline quietly undermines the most: Prince Harry. Because once you introduce even the possibility that Meghan Markle knew Prince Andrew before she ever met Harry, the optics shift permanently. Harry stops being the heroic prince who rescued an overlooked actress. He becomes the last person in the room to realise what room he was actually in. And that's rough, because if Andrew was part of her orbit earlier, if networking preceded romance, then Harry didn't discover a hidden gem. He was the final step in a very long trajectory. That doesn't mean the love isn't real, but it does mean the innocence is gone. And once the public starts viewing a royal marriage through strategy instead of destiny, there's no reset button. People ask, why didn't this blow up years ago? Here's why. Because stories like this don't surface when they're dangerous. They surface when they're useful. For years, the press benefited from protecting the image. For years, questioning it meant lawsuits, lost access and backlash. But now the tide has shifted. The public is tired of curated victimhood. The glossy rebrand appetite has evaporated, and comedy has become the last venue where uncomfortable truths can slip out without permission. Once late-night jokes start circling someone's name, it means editors, producers and writers already know where the bodies are buried. They're just testing if the audience is ready. This wasn't random. It was a temperature check. And the audience didn't flinch. Here's the part no one can spin. Reputations don't collapse because of one accusation. They collapse because too many unanswered questions start stacking up. A yacht here. A club there. The same names repeating. The same introductions. The same silence. This isn't about proving one moment. It's about noticing a pattern that wasn't supposed to be viewed all at once. And now that it has been, There's no stuffing it back into the vault, because the public no longer asks, "Is this true?" They ask, "Why has this never been explained?" And that question doesn't disappear. It trails interviews. It trails appearances. It trails every carefully crafted statement. This wasn't exposure. It was the curtain lifting just enough for people to realise the stage was never empty. And what happens next doesn't belong to lawyers, PR, or palace silence. It belongs to curiosity. And curiosity, once sparked, doesn't wait for approval.